So, not for the first time, I've tried to create a video and upon upload it has been blocked. This was an hour 28-minute long video. This was going through the first three races of the 2021 season, which were Bahrain, Emilia-Romagna and Portugal. And I was showing you the key moments in those races and evidencing it. But in doing so, what happens is you go, well, it becomes ineligible for monetization, but that's not the main purpose of this channel anyway, unlike some YouTube channels. We get copyright protected content found. No one will be able to watch your video, and this is despite pausing the video less than 10 seconds at a time and talking to try to only use clips. So that's basically what's happened. I can't show you that one, so instead I've got to do it this way. Rather than show you that Max Verstappen fully left the track when trying to overtake Lewis Hamilton in Bahrain, and that Lewis Hamilton left him plenty of room, despite them suggesting the notion of, did Lewis run him off track there? Did Lewis leave him enough space? And that's him just before he goes off. Oh, did Lewis push Max off the track there? No. But we'll have a listen to Brundle and Crofty via Tracker View. Here we go. This is what Brundle and Crofty have to say about those pictures that you've just seen.
As they head towards turn 4, Hamilton's going to force Verstappen the long way round. By the time they get to the corner, he's about a third of a car in front. By the time they get out of the corner, he's a whole car in front. Max Verstappen is ahead of Lewis Hamilton.
But will Hamilton be complaining because he took the position whilst...
Will Hamilton be complaining?
...off the racetrack?
Is that gaining an advantage in the way that the stewards would be...
Is that gaining an advantage? Crofty, ask the audience. Let them know what they think in the comments section. Invite the question, Crofty, rather than just tell them the rules of the sport. No, you're not allowed to do that because you've gained an advantage by leaving the racetrack. That's not allowed. You have to give that place back. They're the rules of the sport, kids. That's the way it is. Or you can incite the crazies and you can go, oh, will Lewis be complaining about that? Is that gaining an advantage? Is that okay or not? Oh, there's two ways that you can present this, isn't there?
Looking at it, did Lewis Hamilton force him over that way?
Did Lewis force him off track?
Defence, did he have to leave the track, Max Verstappen?
Did Max have to leave the track?
Or will the steward say, no, that was unfair?
Apparently Verstappen...
No, that was unfair. On who? It was unfair on Max, wasn't it? It was unfair on Max that he went in too hot, couldn't keep it on the track and gained the position. That was unfair on Max.
...and just had a tyre on the curb.
Max just had a tyre on the curb, according to Brundle.
That way, in defence, did he have to leave the track, Max Verstappen, or will the steward say, no, that was unfair?
Apparently Verstappen just had a tyre on the curb. Hang on, what's going on? No, he's giving it back to him. He's giving it, he didn't. I misheard my radio call there. He's giving it...
Yeah, sure you misheard something there, Brundle. Sure you misheard.
...back because he took the position off the racetrack.
Right, so Verstappen is going to have to try again here, and that will have been an instruction. The teams, I'm sure, would have been onto race control, and Michael Massey and the stewards who might have just said,
look, he's really struggling for grip there.
Yeah.
Critical.
So that was Bahrain. Okay. What you got in Bahrain was Lewis Hamilton doing what Formula One drivers do, which is taking liberties, going off track as they go around corners because that can lead to them having a faster lap time. And if you watch the Portuguese Grand Prix, if you've got F1 TV, go and watch the Racing 30 in Portugal and see how many times cars exceed track limits just on that Racing 30 section. Okay, and then go back and see Bahrain and see if leaving the track is an anomaly. See if that is abnormal conduct in the sport of F1. See what penalties were given in Portugal for exceeding track limits. But in Bahrain, Red Bull get on the radio to race control complaining about Lewis Hamilton. Formula One TV, F1 TV, have that message at their disposal, can choose whether or not to broadcast it to the world. They choose to broadcast it to the world. That incites the crazies. That incites the drive to survive new breed of strap-on fanboy that we now have that think they know something about the sport of Formula One. And they're now jumping up going, yeah, what about Bahrain? Track limits. Go and have a look at Portugal. Check it out. Anyway, what is always penalised is gaining a position by going off the track, which is what Max Verstappen did, which is why he had to give it back. That's what happens. That was Bahrain. On to Emilia-Romagna. So in Emilia-Romagna, I can't show you the actual footage of this incident at this chicane, but what you can see here is the onboard of Max Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton marginally ahead, okay, but on the outside he's not a half a car length or a full car length ahead trying to overtake on the outside, but they're side by side. So knowing that you're going into a corner side by side, you have to leave track room for the other car. You know you've got another corner coming straight up. You can't run that car out of room. What happens? Well, he's still there, but within a second, oh, you've not left him any room. And where are we now? Where's Lewis now? That's what it looked like. Forcing Lewis off the track and onto the curbs. So the aerial view is that. There's Lewis and Max side by side going into this corner. You can see the starts of the curbing on the outside there. That's what it looked like as they begin entry to the chicane. Two cars side by side.
And 2 and 1 doesn't often go. And
ran out of room. Okay, so we'll see what Martin Brundle has to say about that. So we've switched to tracker view, and what we see there is a safety car situation because Nicholas Latifi has binned it on lap 1. So it's the safety car comes out, so all the cars bunch up nose to tail in the correct race order, because that's the only way. That's what happens when you deploy the safety car, and that's a condition that has to be met before that safety car gets removed and you can go racing again. But we'll listen to Brundle and Crofty describing that first lap incident at the chicane. Here we go.
Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes, and we now head into the Tamburello chicane, and 2 and 1 doesn't often go, and it didn't.
Yeah, I mean, in those conditions, I can't imagine that the stewards are going to be wanting to look at that with Verstappen.
Oh, in those conditions, this is this one of these situations, Martin, where the rules are different on a different day? Okay, because that's what the rules and regulations say, is it, Martin? On a wet day in Spa, the safety car rules are somehow different, are they, Martin? No, or is it just these are the rules of engagement of motor racing? This is what they are. This is what you're allowed to do. This is what you're not. Oh, but on a wet day, they're all different. Did you ever used to drive, Martin? Were the rules different on a wet day? Or did you just have to be a bit more careful because you had less grip because it was wet, but the rules are still the same? Ah, okay. See what you've done there, dickhead.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that was just the perfect leaving the supermarket start, wasn't it? Hardly any revs. And
the perfect leaving the supermarket start.
Just coasted away, and then having to brake so early because nobody knows how much grip there is. Yeah, he took the racing line.
because nobody knows how much grip there is. Max took the racing line. So this is Martin describing those pictures I've just showed you, where there are two cars going into the chicane. This here, turn 2 and turn 3, okay? Side by side, going into turn 2. And Martin says that Max is entitled to just cut from the inside of turn 2 straight across to the inside of turn 3, despite the fact that he's got a car on his outside, which he's going to chop off out of room heading into turn 3. That's not allowed. You've got a car there. You know it's there. You just can't shut it out. Oh, but Max had the racing line there. It's irrelevant.
Fine.
Picture this. Two cars, side by side, down a straight, trying to outdrag each other. See which is going to arrive to the braking zone of the corner. Okay? What's the racing line? What's the racing line? Going into that corner, what's the racing line? It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. There are two cars on track. Racing line is irrelevant. Racing line is only there when you can be on it because there's no other car there. That's the optimum line for going around the track for setting the fastest time. If you are racing against another vehicle, the racing line is irrelevant. What's relevant, or what becomes relevant, is the relative location of your car relative to their car, the car that you're battling with on track. And depending on the relative locations, you have to respect your opponent and afford them track room. You can't just run them out of track room and say, oh, I had the racing line so I could fuck you into the barriers. No, it doesn't work like that. That's not motor racing, kids, even though that's what this expert is trying to convince you it is. If you race like that, people will die. This is the miseducation from Sky Sports F1 doing so dangerously to convince you of an agenda. That's what it is.
And I do not believe that will be looked at, need to be looked at by the stewards.
Well, Hamilton either had to back off or stay there and risk picking up some damage.
And the floor will be damaged as well because he's gone over the extra yellow curbs there.
And I think you can see the end plate just dangling a bit, and eventually, with 3 or 4 thuds of the floor, it comes off. Oh, hangs on.
And that's a critical part for controlling the airflow down the side of the car, and affects the rest of the car's balance as well. So that's not a one. None of the pieces are good to lose, but especially that bit.
So that was Perez getting out.
So Max didn't do anything wrong there. He had the racing line. Okay, Max's tyres were on the edge of the track. He didn't leave the track in Bahrain, did he? Oh, will Lewis be complaining there? What we then got in this Grand Prix is George Russell and Valtteri Bottas having a crash. George trying to overtake by putting his wheels on the grass. Not a good idea, George. 2 cars written off. That was Valtteri's car written off. All that damage done to Valtteri's car as well. And a cost cap. Debris strewn all over the track. 2 cars needing recovery. Barriers needing repair and checking. Lewis had just gone off trying to lap George Russell. George didn't move offline to let him by. Lewis had to go onto the wet, lost traction, went off the track, put his nose into the tyres, damaged his nose cone, and was limping back to the pits. That accident takes place. Were the Mercedes strategists any good, they could have looked at the situation on track and easily predicted a red flag, kept Lewis lapping, maintained his position, which was 7th position at that moment in time, and waited for that red flag so that he could have restarted that race in 7th. Instead, they pitted him, and Lewis drops to 9th, I believe. But Crofty tells us this about the safety car.
So the one person that has been helped is Lewis Hamilton, who was limping back to the pits anyway, but now does it under safety car conditions.
The one person that has been helped here is Lewis Hamilton. Okay, Lewis was the one person that had been helped, but the race gets red flagged because Hamilton pitted. They did the work to Hamilton's car in terms of whatever they did. He dropped to 9th, and then so then they red flagged the race. And whilst Hamilton was in the pits, that was when Max Verstappen actually went by, making Lewis lapped at that point in time. Okay, but then when they decide to restart the race, and let's face it, when they red flag a race, they would start the race with a standing start, don't they? We've seen that on multiple occasions. We saw that in Baku, standing start. We see that quite often. I've given several examples in the previous videos that I've done, but let's see what's going to happen here.
So what we'll have is a race resuming at 16:25 local time, so in about 2.5 minutes time, but the lapped cars have now taken themselves out of order and put themselves in the order that they should be at the end of the pit lane. So the lead of those, Lance Stroll.
What do you know about the lapped cars? And the one car that has benefited is Lewis Hamilton,
who was in 7th, will make his way from where he was within that pit lane to go to the front, and the rest will then follow. And the safety car will go through the pit lane after he's guided the lapped runners on 3.05 miles of this track.
And how long will they wait? Oh, who was in 7th position? Was that Lando Norris in 7th position in Abu Dhabi? How long will they wait to get them out of the way of the race between the leaders? What are they doing here then?
Medium tyres on Lewis Hamilton's car. A set of mediums, Martin, will get you to the end of the race, but would a set of softs get you to the end of the race as well?
Oh, we've got a green dot and we've got a burgundy dot. What's going on here?
Well,
touch and go, but I think they generally quite like the medium tyre.
I thought there was only one car that was gaining any benefit,
didn't they, in the longer runs? Anyway.
And of course, Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton will have been able to...
Oh, so they're releasing the cars that have been lapped, which is what you have to do, okay, to achieve the valid restart conditions after a safety car deployment or red flag situation like this. Yeah. In order to go racing again, you have to achieve fair conditions for everybody for the resumption of racing.
On the crew, rather than Lewis, will have been able to fix the front wing, replace that front wing after the damage from...
You tell us all of this benefit that Lewis had. You tell us, Crofty.
The start, where he tangled together with Max Verstappen.
Where he tangled with Max, yeah.
Yeah, it's had a bit of a day out, that front wing on the front of Lewis's car there.
Yes.
It's had a lovely time.
Somewhat. After his day out, Williams driver returns to garage. I wonder if is he about to have another little look at what went on there. Nicholas Latifi to his teammates, then to himself. He's got a few images
dots,
to
play with there.
Latifi we lost at the start of this race.
2,
Sergio
3,
Perez
4,
picked up a
5,
10-second penalty,
7,
and then a stop-go penalty.
9,
First
10,
of all,
11 cars
for overtaking behind the safety car,
that
and that penalty. That's all gone now. Start this race in 4th place. And what can Lewis Hamilton do from the position he finds himself in?
Well, at that standing start, you know, it's who knows who can Max jump from 3rd up to 1st on the first start, and now the track is so much drier. Let's have a look. Let's see what it looks like on track now.
Later on in the season.
Oh, can't show you that. They'll block it. Wait there. That's what the track's looking like right now. Let's have a look. How are we going to restart this? I wonder. What jeopardy? Having a standing start with a grid, or having the start controlled by the leader so that they can go when they want to go to try and get the jump on everybody else. What are we going to do?
They're off now because they need to get ready to head out, and the safety car should lead them out unless the race director decides just go straight to a standing start. Let's see what he's going to decide.
We'll see, as Ted was explaining, the SS board on the side of the grid. So the pit lane entry is now open, and those cars that were lapped have unlapped themselves.
Well, what do you know?
So now, all on the same lap, we can start again. Well, Schumacher and Mazepin are another couple of laps down.
Because if you're 2 laps down, you only get 1 lap back.
And there you see the positions gained and lost in this race so far. Tsunoda, 10 places he's made up in this race so far.
Rolling start, not
rolling start.
a standing start. So it's like a safety car restart, effectively. So we won't see them, that's a shame, we won't see them charging off down to the first corner off.
Oh, what jeopardy!
The grid.
Is that because Michael Massey would have thought, look, it's dry enough for slick tyres out there, but it's still a little...
Yeah, let's just say that's the reason.
Bit damp, and if I have 17 cars sat on the grid with the tyres cooling down, we might get another incident the first time they put the...
Because you said that the first time you started the race with a standing start, didn't you? You had those safety concerns right then, and now the track's in better condition. Now them safety concerns have emerged, yeah?
Brakes on, so it's better just to keep them for a rolling start.
I hope not. It's, you know, ultimately the ultimate safety, stay home and not go racing at all, isn't it? So we need, it does look, it would be a bit treacherous down there, I must admit, but no more than you would say normally get on a bit of a damp start on any other given day at a Grand Prix.
For Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc, this race is turning into a very nice afternoon, but they're going to have to watch the Red Bull of Sergio Perez behind them. Verstappen and Leclerc start on the medium tyre. Norris and Perez start on the soft compound tyre. It's mediums for Carlos Sainz. It's soft for Daniel Ricciardo. Mediums, as we saw, for Lewis Hamilton, and behind him, Yuki Tsunoda on the soft compound tyre.
Extraordinarily, still 17 runners then.
What's happened here to Kimi Räikkönen? Oh, we very may...
Well, we're going to get going soon, so let's have a look what it looks like over on...
We had a fairly big squirt of throttle, didn't he? And with the...
Oh, a squirt of the throttle. What happens here?
Battery...
Oh,
Max Verstappen!
What's going on here?
What's happened there?
Indeed, what's happened there? But we're about to get started, so we're having a weave. When's the race going to start? Well, when the leader starts it. And he's gone. So, this gap here, this is what he's pulled out already.
The end of the lap.
And Lewis is back here somewhere. Look at I'll tell you which car has benefited from this situation. I wonder. Now, one of the key reasons of me doing this is because at Silverstone we're presented with this narrative that Lewis Hamilton was desperate to overtake Max on that first lap. Otherwise, his strategy just wouldn't have worked for him, and Max would have just run off into the distance and won the race. And I showed you that didn't happen in Bahrain, didn't happen here, didn't happen in Portugal either, because that's not what happens in Grand Prix. Anything can happen. People can overtake. Cars can make mistakes, as I showed in Portugal, but then it got blocked. You can suffer mechanical issues. You can have issues with your pit stop. So the necessity to overtake another car on the first lap, or shit or bust, your race is done for, your strategy is not going to work because you've not overtaken it on the first race, on that first lap, because that's what Sky Sports told you, that Lewis Hamilton was so desperate that he had to get that done on the first lap, and that's why the crash happened at Cox. That's how they project Lewis Hamilton at Silverstone. Well, that's not the truth in any of these first 3 races. Now on to Portugal. So in Portugal, Valtteri Bottas is on pole position, leads off the line. Lewis Hamilton doesn't manage to overtake him on lap 1. Lap 2, start of lap 2, Kimi Raikkonen, his front wing gets lodged under his body. He hits something, front wing gets lodged under his body, comes off the end of turn 1 into the gravel. Whatever happens, they put the safety car out on lap 2. Lap 7, why are all cars bunched together after 7 laps? Normally they're strung out, aren't they? No, they are together because this is the restart. So after a safety car deployment on lap 2, they restart on lap 7. There were no lapped cars. The incident happened on the second lap for Raikkonen. Nobody had been lapped by then. His car didn't need to be recovered from track. There was not a fire that they had to extinguish. There was some debris on the track, so they brought the cars through the pit lane to enable that track to be cleared quicker. Still took 5 laps. How could you predict how many laps it's likely to take behind the safety car? I wonder, how long will they wait? You know, nobody would look at the past. Nobody would look at previous safety car deployments and gauge how long these type of incidents take. So this is the restart, and we get Verstappen getting the jump on Hamilton. So I'm not going to play it you through because it'll get blocked, but this is the picture. This is another picture. Does Hamilton stay on the gas and send it up the inside and run Verstappen out of track room? Nope. This is the picture from the next camera angle, having come round that bend. This white line here is the track limit. This car here is Max Verstappen. The car behind him is Lewis Hamilton. They're both off track. But Verstappen was the one doing the overtaking manoeuvre. Okay? Verstappen was doing the overtaking manoeuvre and therefore gained the advantage by going off track. That was Portugal, lap 7. Let's listen to what Martin Brundle has to say about the situation. Tracker view again. Let's have a listen from here.
We are going to go racing again, and Bottas once more is going to keep this pack backed up as long as he possibly can. Now he's going for it, and he's got the jump then on Hamilton and Verstappen behind him. Through the heat haze come 19 Formula 1 cars. Hamilton trying to pull out of the slipstream that Max Verstappen's getting behind him. Verstappen goes into turn 1 ahead of Hamilton. Got a little bit squirrely on the exit of turn 1, but that was a great move by Max Verstappen. He's up into 2nd place. Sergio Perez is now behind Lewis Hamilton ahead.
Great move from Max Verstappen.
Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon.
Verstappen was fine for track limits, but
Verstappen was fine for track limits.
Hamilton was even further off the track anyway, so don't imagine.
Sergio Perez is now behind Lewis Hamilton ahead of Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon.
Verstappen was fine for track limits, but Hamilton was even further off the track anyway.
But Hamilton was even further off the track. Are you seeing the picture here? What happened? A car gained a position by going off the track. Verstappen was fine for track limits, but Hamilton was even further off the track.
Place. Sergio Perez is now behind Lewis Hamilton ahead of Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon.
Verstappen was fine for track limits, but Hamilton was even further off the track anyway, so don't imagine that's going to be a problem.
There goes Lando Norris.
No, it's never a problem, Martin. Never a problem. There is a hell of a lot more to show you in Portugal, but it's just got blocked, and I'm not going to bother doing it for now, just because I'm not going to put a time into making a video that's then going to get blocked. So eventually, there will be a time and a place to do all this, but you need to start understanding the narrative. Okay, this is just the first 3 races of the season. I'll do a similar video for the next 3 and then the next 3, and then we'll be at Silverstone and you'll see the sheer volume of vilification of Sir Lewis Hamilton where they make a narrative. They tell you that he was desperate. If he didn't do it on lap 1, then there was no chance of him his strategy working. Absolutely ridiculous, because that's not how Grand Prix racing works. The race is a 300-mile race, something in that region. If you don't get the track position in the first 5 miles, does that mean you lose the race? Well, it's not Monaco, is it? Okay, because a lot of racetracks, overtaking is possible, and you have a strategy. You've got different tyre compounds that you use. You've got a decreasing fuel load. You've got the setup of your car. You've got the way that you drive and how the tyres degrade. It's got an attritional factor to wearing your opponent down. The stamina of the driver. Something that Lewis Hamilton has demonstrated he's capable of doing throughout his career. That's why he's a 7-time world champion. But they try and tell you, oh, he was desperate at Silverstone because if he didn't do this manoeuvre that put Max Verstappen out of the race, that Lewis put Max out of the race there, right? If he didn't do that at Silverstone, then his race, his strategy would have been cooked. In fact, the bit that I am going to show you, if I can quickly find it, this is the onboards from Perez. And there's a car that's chopping across his nose. Now, this is Mazepin that's getting lapped and ignoring blue flags. Okay, but that move, the way that they then describe it, let's have a listen and ignore the fact that he's lapping. It's the fact that this is what's happening in terms of this is an unacceptable chop off across the nose. So I'm going to go to that. And I'm going to go to track of view and let's have a listen.
More liberties in turn 8. Run it a little bit wider. That's what Mercedes are doing, and Red Bull can see that from their GPS.
Oh, what was that, Martin? Let's listen to Martin again. Are Mercedes taking liberties and Red Bull can see that from their GPS? Are we inciting the crazies again, Martin?
Peaky downforce.
I certainly enjoyed Peaky Blinders, but Bottas then now with this World Championship point for fastest lap, and he's pushing Verstappen ever harder. Verstappen's been told, take more liberties in turn 8. Run it a little bit wider.
Oh, take more liberties, yeah? Oh, okay. What about Bahrain?
Wider. That's what Mercedes are doing, and Red Bull can see that from their GPS. What's this going to tell us?
Perez behind Nikita Mazepin.
Oh, come on, it's the leader.
Well, that's Nikita Mazepin about to be lapped.
Oh, these idiots.
Well, it's an idiot if somebody puts that sort of move across you, isn't he? That's right, Sergio.
Sergio Perez, I think, summing up what most of the Red Bull pit wall will have thought about that particular.
Most of the Red Bull pit wall will think that somebody's an idiot for chopping across the front of you like that. Michael, I'm very cross. Everybody knows that you don't chop across the front of somebody like that going into a corner.
The move as well. You can't do that.
Indeed, Crofty, you can't do that. I'm glad that you know that you can't put that sort of a move in.
Not with the current rules and regulations.
Well, not with the current rules and regulations that you don't seem to know, do you? Because you're asking the audience about that in Bahrain. Is that gaining an advantage by going off the track? I wonder. Well, yeah, it is, Crofty.
The blue flags. You're about to be lapped. Keep out of the way. He has had 5 blue flags. Nikita Mazepin waved to tell him that people are coming up in the.
Oh, is that the number of blue flags that are waved in Abu Dhabi when you proposed this restart scenario by leaving the lapped cars in place that you're not allowed to do because the rules, they're not in the rules at all. That's just a made-up scenario that you're not allowed to do. Anyway, that'll do for this one. There's loads more that's missed out because the other thing was an hour and a half long. Okay, but this is as much as I can do. Go and watch Portugal. See how many times track limits were exceeded and by whom. Anyway, Until next time, see you all soon.